People had been burned at the stake for teaching the Lord's Prayer to children in what language?
English.
The corrupt Roman Catholic Church kept the Bible in what language?
Latin.
The king who wanted the Bible in English so he could get rid of his first wife?
Henry VIII.
Yes, the 8 is important. Who said, I defy the Pope and all his laws. If God spare my life ere many years, I will cause a boy that driveth the plow shall know more of the scripture than thou dost.
William Tyndale.
Beautiful. He was the first man to translate the Bible into English from the original what 2 languages?
Greek and Hebrew.
Anybody know which one was the Old Testament?
Hebrew.
And the New Testament?
Greek.
Very good. People could finally read the Bible for themselves. Which king persecuted those who wouldn't submit to the Church of England?
James.
James. Yep, just James, or possibly James the First. Which group wanted to purify the Church of England?
Puritans.
Which group wanted to separate from the Church of England?
Separatists.
Which Bible is in the Capitol Rotunda painting of the Pilgrims?
Geneva.
Very good. Now, on to the Mayflower. Here we go. How many total passengers?
102.
How many of them were separatists?
41.
How long did they sail?
66 days.
Blech. What agreement did they make to survive?
Mayflower Compact.
It was unique in what kind of government?
Self-governance.
For the good of
all.
Yes. The Mayflower colony's name?
Plymouth.
And who was the longest governor of Plymouth?
William Bradford.
Yes, he also had the longest peace treaty with the Native Americans. Why did they stop sharing everything equally? I know you can't all
The
say it
Bible
at the same
verse, he
time,
that does
but
not work shall not eat.
yes. What did the Bible verse say?
He that does not work shall not eat.
Yes. Anybody remember what book that's from?
Matthew?
Mark.
Are we just gonna go through all of them? It is from 1 Thessalonians. Write that down, just so you know it in the future in case you need to use it with someone. The man who preached on a boat about a city on a hill.
John Winthrop.
Yes. Does anybody remember about how many people sailed with his group?
300.
Like,
It was 400. 400 people on multiple ships. Another one of the exoduses of people being persecuted for their faith. The city on a hill comes from what verse?
Matthew 5:14.
Oh, beautiful. Which group wouldn't doff their hats because they treated all as equals?
Quakers.
Very good. Who was the famous Quaker given all the land of Pennsylvania?
William Penn.
What settlers did Penn pay for the land?
Dutch and Indians.
Very good. Which universities started as Bible seminaries? There are 3.
Yale, Harvard, and Princeton.
Yes, all 3 of those are correct, in whatever order you want. Why did the Puritans, Quakers, and the Huguenots come to the colonies?
Religious persecution.
Yes, not to start religious persecution, but to escape religious persecution,
Yes,
in
yes.
case you were confused. William Penn's purpose for required school was to be an example of what to other colonies?
Light.
That all citizens should be able to what?
Read, write, and understand how their government works.
Beautiful. I've been thinking about that a lot lately as I started reading some of these comics, which, by the way, you should check those out. I got one on the Constitution, which I haven't brought, I'll bring it next week. I learned more in reading that for 30 minutes than I have in my entire life, including a government class in school. It actually is starting to make sense to me because I'm like, I really do need to understand this because everybody in America should know how to read, write, and understand how your government works. What do you know? What university's 1642 motto was that the main end of a student's life and studies is to know God and Jesus Christ?
Harvard.
A major factor of colonists turning away from God was the age of?
Reason or enlightenment.
Yes. Yes to both. Who preached sinners in the hands of an angry God?
Jonathan Edwards.
Good. Who preached to 80% of the colonists in person during the Great Awakening?
George Whitfield.
Great guy. Okay, now we need to know who said what. These were a little harder to find. Hopefully you were able to find them. Well, okay then. I've been making faces
Okay.
or something. Reminds me when I worked at McDonald's and the French fries were ready. And
Yes.
it's like, somebody go get the French fries before we all die. All right, let's see. Who said what? The Bible is a book worth more than all the other books that were ever printed.
Patrick Henry.
Woo! Cursed be all that learning that is contrary to the cross of Christ.
James Madison.
Yes, it is in the interest of tyrants to reduce the people to ignorance and vice.
Samuel Adams.
Good. The Bible makes the best people in the world.
Thomas Jefferson.
It is impossible to rightly govern a nation without God and the Bible.
George Washington.
Education without the Bible is useless.
Noah Webster.
Yeah. The Declaration of Independence laid the cornerstone of human government upon the first precepts of Christianity.
John Adams.
The first and almost the only book deserving of universal attention is the Bible.
John Quincy Adams.
Very, very good. I'm impressed. Which signer of the Declaration of Independence set all his slaves free because it was morally wrong to fight for your own liberty while denying it to others?
William Whipple.
Oh, that was William Whipple. Mark it if you got it wrong. Who was a surgeon, abolitionist, and helped found the first Bible Society.
Benjamin Rush.
He also helped found the first women's college. He was a very busy guy. And he wrote books and other stuff and helped during the war, and he was busy. Who couldn't set his slaves free due to state laws, but was able to in his will? Let there
George
be light.
Washington.
Who fought slavery so long and hard that other congressmen created a gag rule to try and stop him?
John Quincy Adams.
Yes. Did he ever win in his lifetime?
No.
No. How much longer was it afterwards? Anybody know?
It's like 80 years or something
Ooh,
like that.
so if he knew Abraham Lincoln when Abraham Lincoln was probably in his 20s,
Oh, so probably 40 years.
probably about 40 years or something. I don't know, but it did happen. Happened in his son's lifetime. All right, let's talk about the women. Who was a Puritan wife and mom of 8, who was the colony's first published poet.
Anne Bradstreet.
Upon the burning of my house, to my loving husband, and other such things. She didn't write to her loving husband upon the burning of her house. That would be a bit much. Hopefully he was there. Who was a slave who wrote Christian poetry and became the New World's first African-American published author.
Phyllis Wheatley.
Good. Who was the wife of one president and mother of another and a strong Christian herself.
Abigail Adams.
Oh, the sound of silence. All right, moving on. Number 46.
Oh my God.
When quotes from the Founding Fathers were researched, what was the top source quoted?
The Bible.
Absolutely. What percentage of quotes were from the Bible?
34.
34%. In this class, percentage of quotes from the Bible would be maybe 5%. And our class is heavily biblical. So the idea that 34% of their quotes were from the scriptures is amazing. Who was the former slave who became a preacher during the Great Awakening and drew huge crowds?
Harry
Henry
Hoosier.
Hunter.
There you go. Lots of
Harry
H's.
Harry Hoosier.
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 Harry?
As in Hoosier
Harry.
Indians.
Harry.
Hoosier.
Oh.
Yes,
That's
and
the last
Harry.
email. It was in this last email.
The black man Lemuel Haynes was a Minuteman and pastored a church for 30 years of mostly black or white people.
White.
Yeah, interesting. James Armistead Lafayette was a former slave who became what?
Double agent for the revolution, posing it as the
Whose side was he on?
American.
It was on ours
He was like Harry.
and the French. Okay,
Oh, okay.
can someone raise your hand if you can explain to me the American dream? The real American dream. What do you think?
That each person has their own rights and they have the opportunity to make as little or as much money and gain position if possible.
Okay. Anybody want to expound on that? Or elaborate or disagree? We could have a fight. It'd be fun. Not really.
They have freedom of opinions
Ooh.
and equal rights as anybody else. So, like, a king in America could be,
Ooh.
like, the same as a peasant.
Okay. Equal value. Equal under the law. Good. Imagine you are William Penn. A bunch of your friends are getting imprisoned because they're Quakers. You yourself are rich, and so you have power to help get people out of jail. The poor people have no power whatsoever. But you get put in jail, and the guy is corrupt, and there's nothing you can do about it, even though the law should let you go. He's corrupt, and so that's just the way it is. And he saw people getting their land taken away, just taken away, because somebody else wanted it. And he saw people getting, well, he probably didn't see it, but people were getting shipped off as slaves if the king didn't like them because of their race, because they were Irish, etc., etc. If he's coming to the new world, what is the American dream for him and his people?
Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom to go against corrupt government.
Perhaps to make our own laws that are righteous,
Freedom to worship.
not be under a monarch who's just born into it, but to elect our own leaders. who we vote
Self-governance for the good of
Yep,
all.
self-governance for the good of all. A lot of times when we discuss the American dream, it has to do with economics because we've been taught the economic view of history. But the providential view of history, the American dream would be that everyone is equal value because they are created in the image of God. Now that also applies to every race, every level of society, every ability level, even every age and every gender even. And hence, we now have the right to vote for everybody because we eventually got there. But even economically speaking, often when we think of the American dream, it is the ability that if you work hard enough, you can move up in the world. So the log splitter can become the president, which is Abraham Lincoln. So you could be the president too. You don't have to be born into it, and you don't have to just have a ton of power or a ton of money. That would be the American dream. It is not that you come here and get rich because it gets handed to you. Okay. Separation of church and state as intended by the Founding Fathers and original documents. We talked about that last week. Can someone explain to me? Ho, ho, ho. Ponderous thoughts. Hope you have at it again.
the idea that the church can, like, Christianity can be in government, but the government doesn't decide what religion you can be, and the government isn't a religion. So you have the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be the church in government. It just means that the government has no right to decide things of the church.
Okay. In other words, my beliefs personally are none of the government's business. The government can't tell me what to believe, tell me how to believe, tell me where to go to church or where I can't go to church, how to meet, how many to meet, etc. Religion is not the government's business. And so religion, the government shouldn't be putting together an army to go and take over another country and say, if you don't become Christian, we will kill you. That is not separation of church and state. That is the combination of it. And so James, Henry, Church of England, that's what was happening. It still happens in some religions today. Okay, paper in your handouts, the one we talked about last week.
Oh, yes.
That we were filling out things about the Baptists being concerned about freedom of church, not being with the state. Very good. And Thomas Jefferson reassured them that, though it's okay, there is a wall between the church and the state, so nobody's going to be forcing you to be the Church of England or the Anglican Church instead. If you went and saw the movie, you noticed that when George Whitefield came in to preach, it was in the Anglican Church, because that was the church. And that was the one in charge of everything and with the power. So if you wanted to be a preacher, you had to go in there. And you had to make friends with all the right people. And you had to get them to like you. And you had to do things their way. Hence the Dusty Bible. So when they kicked him out of the church, it wasn't just that one literal church. It was the church. So like being excommunicated, but from an Anglican church. And that's why he went outside. Because it meant all the churches all around the area were not going to let him in. You were blacklisted. It'd be like if somebody was like, you're kicked out of Walmart because you stole something and you can't go to any Walmart ever again. So we went outside, and it was like so revolutionary. It's not like they had summer camp back then. So like being outside and going to a sermon was a huge, weird, really awesome, cool thing, and God used it. So sometimes when things go wrong, it's actually God's way of making things go right. Don't be afraid. If you're walking with God, He'll take care of it. All right, so moving on to separation church state. If you look down, farther down, it has a category under Congress. At his inauguration, George Washington did 7 specifically religious activities. He's the only one who did that many, and they were his choice. He added, "So help me God." That wasn't already in there. He's the one who swore on the Bible, which is not required by the Constitution, by the way. So if presidents don't do that, they aren't rejecting the Constitution. And in my personal opinion, if they don't respect the Bible, I don't think they should, because I think it's false impressions, false. There's a word. Oh, I can't find it.
False representation.
He kissed the Bible. He offered prayers for the nation at his inauguration. And then Congress and the president marched in a parade to church. It's the first thing they did after he became the president of the United States. They had church and they prayed over Congress, and then they went to Congress to adjourn. He started his presidency with the scriptures, with prayer, with God. It was pretty awesome. And it said the first Congress meeting had an extended time of prayer and read 4 chapters of the Bible. So not like one verse, not just City on the Hill verse. 4 chapters. And one man said even the Quakers shed tears, which wasn't the Quaker style. Okay, I'm going to give you another handout, which we have 2 minutes to go through. Take and pass down, please. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go through it while you are passing it down. There's no blanks to fill out, so you can just listen. The House Judiciary. So again, we have 3 parts of government. The House Judiciary, blah, blah, blah. In an issue that came up in 1854. So now we're moving past the Revolution, what's going on after that. In a report, it was written, quote, this is in the historical records, had the people, the founding fathers, our beginning nation, during the Revolution, a suspicion of any attempt to war against Christianity, that revolution would have been strangled in its cradle. At the time of the adoption of the Constitution and its amendments, the universal sentiment was that Christianity should be encouraged, but not any one sect, which means any one denomination. Again, you can't force everybody to be a Baptist, you can't force everybody to be a Calvinist, you can't force everybody to be a whatever, but we are one nation under God. That's where we stand as a nation. That was the idea. And if they thought somebody was going to take that away, I think they would have written a lot more stuff in our founding documents about it. It was just assumed. Okay, moving down to the Supreme Court. Now, I don't know if you know, but the Supreme Court, we do not think of that as a Christian, group of people. Back then, I want you to see some of the things that were happening in the beginning of our nation. In 1892, which wasn't even the beginning, so that's like over 100 years after the Revolution, the U.S. Supreme Court had a unanimous decision that said, quote, you can look all this up, all the documents are there to be found. No purpose of action against religion can be imputed to any legislation, state or national, because this is a religious people. I believe this came about because, again, the colleges were going south again, and they wanted to make it to where Christianity couldn't be taught or you couldn't promote Christianity on the college campus. Sound familiar? And the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, was like, no way. We are a religious people. This is a Christian nation. Wow. For this decision, now to make this decision, they couldn't just give their opinions. Nobody should ever be giving their opinions when they make judicial decisions. They had over 80 precedents that quoted the founding fathers, acts of the state governments, previous court decisions, etc. 80 pieces of evidence to say this is where we stand as a nation, not just where we stand, us personally, right at this moment. In 1811, New York Supreme Court, a guy put out writings full of profanity that attacked God and Jesus and the Bible. He was punished. Even though there's freedom of speech, there are limits. There are certain things you shouldn't be doing. Yeah. He was punished, and the verdict by the Supreme Court that punished him was that, quote, whatever strikes at the root of Christianity tends manifestly to the dissolution of civil government. In other words, you're going to kill our nation if you turn away from God. Wow. There were over 300 court cases in the beginning of our nation that said America is a Christian nation. Now, what does that actually mean and what does it not mean? We'll be talking about next week. But you have a piece of paper that has president quotes on it. I believe all of those come from the inauguration. All 50 presidents have quoted the Bible. Does that mean that all 50 presidents are Christians?
No.
No. So let me ask you then, why, can you think of any reason why a president who was not a Christian would put a Bible verse in his speech?
Because there's a large percentage of Americans who are religious in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, give that a pause for a second. Why would that matter? The rest of you. Take one of these and pass it. Come on.
Maybe they just think of the Bible as like history that's been twisted or something.
Okay, as a historical document. Thank you. Who else? What else you got? What do you think? If somebody came to this church or this town, say to Madison and Rutledge, and had this big political meeting, and they got up and gave a speech, and they knew that most of the people in Madison and Rutledge, maybe they weren't like true Christians, but they believed in God, why might they quote the Bible in their speech?
To attract people to them.
Okay, to attract the people to them. Okay.
So they sound like Christians?
So they sound like Christians. What was
So
it?
they kind of sound like they have good morals.
Okay,
Like they follow.
they sound like good people, the kind of people we would want to vote for. All of the above are very good reasons. So be not quick to trust just because someone quotes scripture. I don't know if you've thought about it, but the devil quotes scripture.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to twist it. Sometimes he'll take it out of context, little bits and pieces for what he wants, like he did with Eve. Sometimes he just quotes the part that he likes that fits the way he wants to go, like he did with Jesus. Of course he's going to keep doing that today. So obviously people who want the vote of the American people, who in general do have a belief in God, do have at least a concept of what is morally right and wrong. Do you think if most of the people in America believed in the Book of Mormon or the Quran, do you think a lot of presidents would quote a verse from there just as easily?
Yes.
Tells you something, doesn't it? Very fascinating. But just the fact that they are quoting from the scriptures and not some other book does tell you something about our nation in general. And I think what it tells you is good. Just don't be super quick to be like, ooh, he must be a Christian, because he knows Genesis 1:1. Somebody wrote it in his speech, you know, it's on the teleprompter. Okay. You wouldn't believe how long I spent staring at that map trying to find the capital. Basically, it keeps going like
It'd be
here.
cool to go back and like.
Okay, so now that we have everybody in place, I am the child on the field trip. And you are going to tell me what you know and everyone else what you know because they don't know either. We're going to start way over here with Loren because she's the easiest one to get to off the boat. Here I am. I am an immigrant. I want to know everything. You tell me everything.
This is the Lincoln Memorial, and it has Psalms 19:9 that says, "The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether."
Okay. Bible verse on the Lincoln Memorial. Now I'm going next over here. What are you?
I'm the Washington Monument. And on there it says, there is a Bible in the cornerstone, and the aluminum cap bears the inscription, Leos Dio.
Okay, in
Praise
case you guys
God.
missed that. Everyone pay attention. Felicity, please repeat.
There is a Bible in the cornerstone, and the aluminum cap bears the inscription, Lois Dio. Praise God. That is on the Washington Monument.
Correct. The Washington Monument was also built with a bunch of stones that people were able to donate or make themselves to help build this. So if you go inside, which you aren't allowed to anymore, I don't think, but like actually going up the stairs, you will find all kinds of Bible verses from people all over the nation who contributed them. And a lot of other things as well. Okay, now I'm going to move up here to where Grace is, and she's going to tell us what's going on. Where are you?
This is the Jefferson Monument.
Claire,
And it
what did I
says-
say?
Grace.
I have been doing that to you for a year. Sorry, Claire.
It says, God who gave us liberty, God who gave us life, gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed a conviction that these liberties are the gift of God? Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just and that his justice cannot sleep forever.
Did you hear that? Who is that? The guy who's not a Christian, and so we shouldn't do anything Christian and shouldn't talk about God? That was Jefferson. How many times did he mention God in there? 3 or 4 times? That's just in one speech. God is just, and his justice will not sleep forever. If you want to look up when he said this, it was very important. Wow. Jefferson went to church, by the way, in the Capitol. Long story. I hope we have time to get to that. But if not, study him yourself. I think it was like 6 years that he went to church every week.
The United States Capitol building contains numerous 700 plus artworks and architectural elements that incorporate Christian themes and imagery reflecting the role of religion in American history.
How many?
700.
Not 1, not 12. That's a lot. And you don't do that by accident. And over here, Miss Punky, where are you?
I am in the Congressional Prayer Room in the Capitol. That's where the Congress goes to pray. I assume. That's all mine says.
Okay, the Congressional Chapel. Can you show them the picture? It is a picture of Washington kneeling at Valley Forge, and it has a Bible verse on the stained glass window. That congressional room, the prayer room, is not something that you can visit on a tour because it is still in use. And if I understand correctly by historian David Barton, there are Congress people who love God, who are believers, that still go in there and pray before they meet in Congress to ask God's will on the things that they vote for. All right, Michaela.
This is the Capitol House Chamber, and above every meeting are carved the words, "In God We Trust."
So every time the left gets up and starts spouting whatever they're spouting, right over their head is "In God We Trust." Now, if you look on the news and they're showing the picture of the house, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if they purposely don't show it, but now forevermore you will know it is there. And scooting over to Grace, whose name is Grace, and her name is Grace.
The Library of Congress's Rare Book Division has 1,470 Bibles dating from the beginning of printing, including one of the 3 existing copies of the original 15th century Gutenberg Bible on vellum.
Okay, now if you like studying history, you know that Gutenberg Press was the beginning of printing books. And so the original 15 Bibles, which were probably this big, we have 3 of them. That's pretty awesome. And back there to the oddly dressed female.
In the Great Hall of the Library of Congress, there is engraved above a doorway, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding," which is a Bible verse from I don't know where.
Proverbs. About wisdom. Moving on to Rachel.
I'm the Library of Congress, and says, "Nature is the art of God."
Which is cool. The Library of Congress tries to have a copy of like every book ever written or something like that. Several of my books are in there, just so you know. Last but not least, everyone come gather around the Supreme Court. What do you have to say?
This is the Supreme Court building. At the top in the center is Moses with the Ten Commandments. And inside the building is the Ten Commandments. Also, there are over 40 depictions of the Ten Commandments in the Supreme Court building.
And just so you know, from what I have been told, if you go on a tour right now to the Supreme Court, which of course they don't want you to think of us as a Christian nation anymore, and so the tour people will tell you that is Moses holding a copy of the 10 Bill of Rights. So this is why it is good to go to the source and find out things for sure and not just believe what you are told. Because if you did believe just what you were told, you would think her name is Grace. All right, that is it for today because we got to get dressed and go to the play. We're filming for us.
Oh, you're
If you do go
welcome.
to the Capitol, I think you would be amazed if you traveled around and you knew where to look at how much of God you would find. And that one thing that I find very ironic is that one of the places to find the most about God inscribed in marble in the Capitol is Thomas Jefferson.